he was here.
Okay, so he'll be in.
You have to have a Google account, but yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, I use it for my
Coming over
personal
for
stuff.
dinner?
I have it for my
I
personal
didn't-
stuff, but we,
I had no
about
idea how it-
about a year and a half ago, we
Poor thing, I
switched
feel so
over
bad, you've been crazy
to
about
it.
it.
And it's
Now maybe.
fantastic.
So, do we start with the last night's
You need to
stuff?
get
Or get into this?
Well, I see, I don't need them for reading, I need them for distance. So if I want to contact distance,
She
then
put
I
it
need
on
reading
here,
glasses,
so I just go
get
right down.
distance.
Okay, so start with the new stuff.
Yeah, so now I'm like, I need a pair of glasses. and I'm on that. So like, I have to take those on.
Ready?
Like,
Yeah.
see this,
Mm.
to see you. Okay, then you're a little blurry, I go like this.
Chairman's ready to roll here.
All right.
Welcome, everybody. Start the Wednesday, February 12th Finance Committee meeting. It's 7:05. So first on the agenda is new business. We have guests, Rick LaFond, Dory Jameson, and Chief Majensky. Welcome.
Super, thank you. Mr. Chairman, just because we have Veterans Day, would you mind taking out of order the reserve fund transfer, just so that
Sure.
Veterans Day doesn't have to hang around all night listening to?
Is that all right with you?
No offense, Dave, but-
It's okay. Very wise.
Well, you can choose whatever you'd like, but at least, and I gave you a reserve fund transfer request, as you recall last night after our discussion with Bob Pratt. We did go back this morning, and the town council office did produce this as an exact number, which includes all the obligations for the month of February, and it's $12,928. It also includes an obligation of about $500 for Bemis drug, for the drug prescription payments. And there's approximately $1,300 in this number also for it's not an issue that's in dispute, but it's an issue that's in process that the agent is trying to resolve with the accounting department and having to do with retroactive benefits in January for a particular case. So if that turns out to be legitimate, we wouldn't want to have to, it would just seem a little bit silly to have to come back for $1,300. So that's all in here, and so this is the number that the town accountant's office would recommend covers all the obligations to date. And we will have to do this one more time before town meeting, and obviously we'll have the exact number for you at that time too.
You're gonna get not sick of seeing me.
So this is for $12,928.
Correct.
And there's how much in the reserve fund now?
I don't know the exact number, but it's $24,000.
24,000. Has anybody contacted the state to find out what happens when there isn't any more?
What happens is the state will pay benefits, and the problem with that is they will charge you on your cherry sheet for the following fiscal year, which makes sense. However, there's a question as to whether or not you would get the benefit of the 75% reimbursement for that. So there's the
So it's gonna
state-
cost us.
It would likely cost you the reimbursement amount.
You don't get the 75%
Right.
reimbursement for that money.
So, I mean, obviously, the state is not in the habit of making it easy not to meet your obligations.
Sure.
So, whether or not there would be some cause to be able to deficit spend, that's a different issue. And the town accountant was talking to the Department of Revenue about that, but she wasn't getting the warm fuzzy, we'll say, because it's not, other than snow and ice removal, as you know, there's nothing that's specifically in legislation that allows for over expenditure of budgets, but, so, it would appear at this pace that barring anything catastrophic that requires the reserve fund next month, that we should be able to limp into the April special town meeting, and then we can restore the reserve fund or this line item, which however people feel they want to do it from a format standpoint.
And there's nothing that you know of tomorrow that's going to come up for the reserve fund. It's
Nothing I
getting
know
close on
right
this.
Right now, so.
If we don't do April meeting, because sometimes we end up moving things to May or even early June, depending, then what happens?
Well, we scheduled a special town meeting and an annual town meeting on April 7th.
Seventh?
So at the very
Okay.
least, we should be able to open and close the special town meeting. So if for some reason the special town meeting gets continued, then we have different issues. And I'm not prepared to give you a solution for that problem at the moment. But,
Okay, and if we don't do this right now,
then
What's the if?
then essentially we would not be meeting our entitlement requirements under the law. And again, in theory, the state would step in, pay these obligations,
Mhm.
and then we would be on the hook next year, cherry sheet for the full amount, without the 75% reimbursement. So,
So you stand behind this figure?
yes.
And if something does happen between now and, like, another department has to come up, I mean, we got nothing on the horizon right now, but what about a what if, a big what if? And then we're kind of like, you know, we should be, I guess, equal to all departments. What do we do?
I don't disagree with that dilemma. That's rhetorical, I hope, because I don't have an answer for that question. It would depend on what it is, what department, what other funds you could maybe legally use to deal with that particular issue. So without specific examples, it's really hard to answer the question, but I have the exact same concern as you do about that, because it is getting a dangerously low reserve fund at this time of year.
And this seems to go up and up and up and up and up every month. Is there any stoppage of this? It's like we're just bleeding out, bleeding out, bleeding out.
My department is the only department that returns 75% of the money that I spend.
Yeah, and that's true. The problem is it can take a year plus to get those reimbursements, and it's a cash flow. It's a cash flow issue is what it is. I mean, for instance, next year's, I'm sure you've all seen the cherry sheet, projected cherry sheet based upon the House 1 numbers released by the governor. Very small increase in overall in terms of local aid, and about 60% of that is just reimbursement for veterans benefits. And the amount that's on the cherry sheet at $115,000 clearly it is not related specifically to what we're spending this fiscal year in total. It goes back even further. So we're not gonna get back to 75% for most of this fiscal year till FY16. So it's a cash flow issue, and it's too bad there isn't a better way to approach this. And as I think we reported a long time ago, we did look into whether or not that a special revenue fund or a revolving fund could be set up for this particular item, and to date, that is not available under general laws, because it really is that type of item that would suggest some type of funding like that, some type of mechanism like that, but it doesn't exist.
The number reflected here is, 12,928. Does that reflect the exact same time period as the documentation provided from yesterday? Or?
Yes, that is all the obligations to the dollar through the month of February.
Okay.
To be paid in the month of February.
All right, so our figures were just off prior.
They were rounded. These are
Okay.
exact numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any way we can prioritize this stuff? In other words, we're in trouble with the money. If somebody comes up and just wants something done, we can put it off till April. As opposed to, I know there's people that are on the rolls every day. Can we try to put some new clients off until the new fiscal year?
Yeah, I don't have an answer, Chief. That's just not. I can ask those questions, with Paul, we can explore that. I don't know that yet.
All right.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? There, how many? 4 in favor. And you have all opposed? One opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This is probably going to be the last one that I will approve. Because it's just taken off too big. And I don't have faith in the system that's there right now.
I have to agree with the chief, I think it's
Just you need to sign it.
Okay, I was gonna ask, what do I do with it now? Just sign it and
Just
give
sign
it
it,
back?
date it.
No,
Both copies, one
unfortunately.
copy?
Just one and I'll take care of it.
Thank you for coming.
Pass that down. Thank you.
We don't all have to sign that.
No,
No.
just the chair.
All right, so we'll go back to new business. Chief, want to tell us about the police department?
Oh, tell you about the police department. First of all, thank you for having me here tonight. I know everyone here volunteers their time. I appreciate the fact that you're coming in here on Wednesday night? Wednesday night?
Yes.
So appreciate that before we get closer to the weekend. Just to kind of give you an overview, I gave everyone a copy of the town report for 2013, or the annual town report that I submitted to the town manager and the assistant town manager, just for your review. It's also, for anybody that might be watching, it's also posted up on our website at the police station, which is www.abingtonpolice.org, if people want to read it. And that's that. The budget that I submitted this year, this coming fiscal year FY15, is very similar to last year's request. It's pretty much mirrors last year's request. As far as staffing goes, I was looking to add 4 officers to get us to the, it's actually, as you know, and for those people that aren't aware, that we currently are staffed with 25 police officers. I have 2 that are out on a prolonged illness. I have 1 that just graduated from the academy Friday, which is good. But ultimately, that officer is going to go through field training, which we're going to speed up. Typically, field training is 3 months. I'm going to try to do it in a month, just to try to stop the, sort of the overtime bleeding. I don't know that that's good or bad, but it's reality. And the other thing would be, certainly that even with that, it takes an officer at least 3 years before they get to be productive. I mean, and maybe productive is a bad word, but to be able to be real self-sufficient, it takes time. It takes time like anything to learn the job. And I think it takes about 3 years to really get pretty good at it. So, with that said, I also have 1 who's waiting for the academy. She's out right now, waiting for the next available academy, which will probably be sometime in October, November. And I have 2 in the academy. So currently in the academy, again, they just started a couple of weeks ago. So they'll be in the academy for a good 5 months. So as you know, as I had mentioned earlier with my staffing already at bare bones, it's kind of an interesting place right now to try to keep our head above water and make sure that we have people out there on the road to answer when there's emergency calls. The men and women that are working for the department are doing that. They're doing everything to the best of their ability, much to their credit. So, again, I'm asking for 4 officers, additional officers to get us to the staffing level, which would be 29. In the 1980s and 1990s, we had 30. As you can probably figure, crime has certainly, investigating crime has become more complex than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It was much more labor intensive, many more reports, a lot more time. So officers are doing more with less. But again, they're doing it. I'm also realistic in knowing that we were in a tough and difficult position financially in the town. So I get it. I get it, but I would be remiss in my duties as police chief if I didn't say that this would still give me understaffing to what we had in the 1980s. But it would be, if you anybody wins megabucks or anything, certainly. Police department money.
Could I just?
Go ahead, please.
Just with regard to that, I think Dave is well aware of the financial status of the town. He stays up on those things. He would have, you know, I don't think there's ever been established by this board of selectmen and the finance committee, voting priorities when there are funds to restore positions. And from what I can see right now, I would agree with the chief that this would be the area that, should there be funds available, whether, probably not this fiscal year, maybe future, then that would probably be the priority area for reestablishing. And you know, and you're gonna hear over the course of this process, requests from more staff, administrative, clerical, and not that those aren't important, but I think, you know, you have to have priorities, and I think that, in my opinion right now, that this would be the priority area when funds are available. That's my editorial statement.
Appreciate that.
But there's no money.
Understood, understood. And just for a little bit of clarification, I think for the last several years, if my memory serves me right, there's been a vote to make us a priority, but it's just the funding just hasn't been there.
Has there been?
Yeah, there has.
Okay, then-
It's just a matter
I'm
of.
happy to hear that, though.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
just a matter of, we just can't seem to get there, and that's understandable. So if I look through my budget, and I thought it would be easier just to kind of go through each and every line item, is that okay? I don't want to bore anybody to death, but I thought that would kind of make the most sense. As I look down through the first budget I get, and hopefully, line item I get, and hopefully I followed along with you, is overtime. I requested $125,000 in overtime. In FY '13, we spent $124,000 in overtime. Currently, we have spent $148,000 in overtime. A lot of, so obviously, we're through the roof on overtime. The numbers I put are realistic. We're spending more now than I hope we spend next year because of staffing issues. I hope we get these people out of the academy. I hope overtime, I anticipate overtime going down. So the numbers, even though we're at $148,000 currently, I'm only requesting $125,000, which I think is a realistic number. In FY '14, we appropriated $115,000 through the previous town manager. And again, at that point, I thought it was an unrealistic number. It's just not realistic. I try to provide you with realistic numbers, and I think $125,000 is a realistic number. The next line item would be educational incentive, or otherwise known as the Quinn bill. I understand Senator Quinn passed away. He was the person that came up with the novel thought of having educated police officers and across the Commonwealth, and what a great thought that was. But with that, you'll see the numbers. This year it went up a little bit from $99,000 to $100,000 this year. One of the officers that went to school, got his degree. Know that the new hires, this was a previously hired or grandfathered officer. The new hires currently, they don't get any educational incentives. So if they have a bachelor's level, a master's level, a doctor's level, it really doesn't matter. They don't get any more any of the new hires, which makes a class of two different people. You get the people with the education that are getting paid for it, and the people with the education that aren't getting paid for it, which I don't know if that's a good thing. But it's reality. But I just want you to be aware of that the new officers hired, as old officers or older officers retire, so does their educational incentive. With the caveat, if I take a transfer from somebody, from another department, of somebody who is already got education, then I take that education too. I take that responsibility with them. So that's
So I have a question
Well,
on
please.
that.
That's great.
Basically, so with this is all of the grandfathered officers that you have in, and you're anticipating an increase based on degrees that have been awarded within,
correct.
okay.
As they're already grandfathered, and as they advance their degrees. I think this one went from a bachelor's to a master's degree, which is a 5% difference in Quinn bill benefits.
If their pay was to go up,
They pay.
percentage is gonna go up with it.
Exactly.
Regardless if their education went up, it's their bargain to pay. If they got a raise.
So, okay, the next one I have is shift differential. You'll see the shift differential, I kept the same, and this is with whether or not we hire the 4 officers. It would stay the same, so that the additional officers wouldn't impact the shift differential right now. And the reason for that is they'd all be assigned to the academy, day shift. So while they were getting trained, they don't get night shift differential. But eventually in FY16, then that would kick in, because they'd be assigned to different ones. But I think that's probably a moot point, but I wanted to at least kind of make you aware of how I was thinking on that. The next one I have is specialized stipend. I have, this is contractually driven. Specialized stipend are, if they go out, officers go out and they go out and qualify, they get a stipend for that. And also fitness evaluation, they go out, they have to pass the 40th percentile of the Cooper standard. So they go out once a year, we take them out and we run the track, we push ups, sit-ups, and if they pass that, they get a stipend for it. This is one of those areas that it's difficult for me. I kind of guess on who I think is going to take it and who isn't. It's really hard because, you know, an officer that I might not think, I sort of have the budget for it, but I don't know that they're going to do it. But as the recruits come out, I expect most of them will hopefully do the fitness, hopefully when they come out of the academy. So that's sort of one of those things.
And is that the 30,000 figure?
That is,
Special
specialist stipend is 30,800, yes, that is correct.
You also had an increase in your holidays, which was the line item right before that.
Yes, holidays, thank you. Holidays would have went up, and that is driven by the 4 officers
Okay.
hired. The exact figure on that, per officer, so if you were to take that out, subtract that out, just give you the exact figure. Excuse me.
It's about a $7,000 increase.
Yeah, it's $2,070.20. So if you were to multiply that by 4, that would be the amount that should have went up from the previous fiscal year. Those are the 4 additional officers. And while I'm on that, there also would be increases as we come down to it, the additional stipends. If you were to eliminate the 4 proposed positions, that's $4,000 right there. And uniform, as we go down through uniform, that's $1,000, so that's $4,000 there. So that would be the elimination, along with the salaries. And the salary is $48,930.96 for step 1, 48,000. So you'd multiply each one of those groups by 4 and back it out if the office is unfunded. Thanks. What's that? Vacation coverage, you'll see that I went up a little bit in vacation coverage, and that's simply because vacation liability goes up. We try to cover 65% of vacation, of the liability with vacation. Currently, I have expended $58,000, 58.1 in vacation. With that in mind, I have asked for $120,000 or an increase of about $6,000 from last year. Again, it's just to keep, it's the same coverage as people gain more vacation time as they get on in years. They have to cover it in order to keep, level. Sick request. Last year, I had mentioned to the then town manager that I thought the sick coverage was inadequate. We had a discussion over that. Ultimately, obviously, the town manager reduced the amount that I requested. And it was interesting that I had asked for, the money I had asked for, I think it was 106 last year. He gave me 89, and we ended up expending 116. And this is just to keep the minimum sick coverage, to keep the minimum amount of offices on the road. Right now, we've expended about $87,000. So, again, the amount that I asked of $106,891 is what I believe is a legitimate and conservative, realistic number. And as I go on later, you'll see I do reduce line items too. I mean, it goes both ways. If I don't think time has proven that it's a little bit, that we're okay in the number, I back them out too.
Yeah, I think actually that's what we're seeing here on our draft, because there's a budget appropriation and then there's just the coverage line, but the budget appropriation was
Looks like it's
removed
moved.
and probably moved into that. So just a little clarification
So
piece on that.
5151 has a 100% reduction. And it says draft over, so I can't see what the number.
Then 5154.
Yeah, 5154 increases so much that it doesn't even tell you, from 5,000 to 106. So it just looks like it was moved from 5151 to
That's that
5154.
newfangled way you guys are doing. From the old school.
Yeah,
Paper and rock.
So you had a huge deduction on 5151.
So it just looks like they consolidated it into one bucket. Okay.
Court time, there was an increase of $5,000 in court time, from 50 to 55,000. FY '13, we expended $59,000. I think it's a realistic number. Officers are mandated to go to court. They get summonses. The more, arrests that are made, the more crime that, is committed. It kind of drives that number. Sick leave incentive, I reduced. I can look at that. It was $5,000. I reduced it down to $4,000. Having last year expended $1,100, I reduced this number down to a realistic number. Honestly, I wish this number was driving up. I wish I was going the opposite way, because what sick leave incentive is that an officer doesn't use sick time for the year. They're given a stipend for it. So it sort of gives you an idea of, the fact that we are, at times, driving our employees, pretty hard. There isn't a day that goes by at the station that we don't force somebody in to work, whether they want to work or not. And granted, we're paying them overtime, I get that. But there are a lot of times when officers are working a midnight day shift, at a birthday or whatever it might be, that might have something else going on, that they're forced in, because we have a call-out system and basically nobody answers the phones. So the officers on shift are held over. That's what happens. They all, it's quite frequent, daily. It's probably no different than a lot of people in a lot of different industries are used to. So I put it out there. Health insurance incentive, that's contractually driven. That's a clerical union stipend. Other personal services, there was an increase in that. That went in FY '13, we spent about $15,235. An increase in that to $13,000 from $11,250. I thought that was a realistic number, granted, given the history of what we actually spend in that.
What specifically is that?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That is matron services. When we go out, we make an arrest for females. We have matron services. It could be vehicle maintenance when they come in. If Park and Rec comes in and we need something in, but more vehicle maintenance than Park and Rec. If they come in, if the cruiser goes down, or we need to have something fixed, or we have a flat tire, those are that's where it gets paid from. So it's, what else?
Chief, is that
Pretty
something,
much driven.
looking at the actual, whenever this was printed, it was only $2,700. Is that something that just fluctuates throughout the year? You might use a
Yes.
bunch of it.
And it was funny, I was talking to, I caught that myself, and I was talking to my administrative assistant on that, and the reason for that is she's not taking it out of this line item, she was mistakenly taking it out of salary and wages.
Okay.
So I have to adjust that. So it gives you a false sense of, wait a minute, we're not really spending.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I know.
You barely used it.
I saw it too, and I went, why is, this didn't
Okay.
make sense to me. So I actually just spoke to her about that, and so she missed it.
Okay.
But hopefully it's all the same plot, it's just different line items. Uniform allowance is contractually driven. Again, that's, a line item set for officers to get their uniforms. There's also, like this year, you'll see there's a lot of money spent on, because this caught my eye too, on putting people through the academy, different uniforms that they have. When I have a couple of acting sergeants, getting them their uniforms up to date, if it's, the stripes, the uniforms, all that stuff. Uniform hats, stuff like that. I think I purchased everyone a uniform hat this year. And sometimes when you make a gesture like that with the officers, it goes a long way when you force them in the next day.
So I had a question on that. So
Please.
the actual is way up, and you
Yes.
explained that with the
Yeah, and that would be
the
exactly what
recruits.
I was just saying, yep.
So if you put 4 more people through the academy,
Right.
wouldn't you need to be closer to the actual for this year? It seems like we'd be under at 26,000. If you were to
Yes.
get those 4 positions, and you have to outfit those 4 new officers, wouldn't that go up even more?
You could.
Okay.
You could, yeah. 'Cause typically, that particular stipend doesn't necessarily cover a uniform. Uniform pants are $300 for a pair of pants, just because they get police pants. I don't get it. We should go to dungarees and say that for years. But, it's just the expense of everything. A uniform shirt, if you think about it, and, you get 3 uniform shirts, they're $80 a piece. Now you get summer ones, they're $80 a piece. Now you get, it's just amazing. Gun belt, it's absolutely amazing. A holster, when we go over and get them a holster's $80. It's like, wow. So it gets expensive.
So does the 26 include the 4K, the 4,000 that we, that you had mentioned for the new hires?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, it does. So you would subtract that. In-service training. That's just training. A lot of that, it's, as I mentioned before, training is, in other presentations, training is a vitally important aspect, especially with accreditation. I'm certainly looking to keep training at a reasonable number. I know we expended $70,506 in FY13. So far in training this year, we've already expended $59,000. We have training to go, more training to go. Things like firearms qualification, we do it 3 times a year. It's all accreditation standards. It's one of the things about being a professional police agency is that you have to, abide by their training. But on the flip side, God forbid anything ever happen, which it has, shootings or whatnot, the training pays off dividends, proper training. So that's a number that I think is legitimate to what the needs of the department are. Switch over to, I think that's all the personnel, so the big money items, line items. Switch over to expenses, electricity. I reduced electricity. Oh, no. I did not. I left electricity the same at 39,000. Last year, we expended $34,000, almost $35,000, 34.5 in electricity. This year, we're at about 20,000 right now, 20,200. It's a line item you could look at. You could back it off a little bit. I left it the same because I just, I don't want to go up in it because I don't think there's a need for it, but I didn't want to go down either because you just don't know where electricity is going to fluctuate. So I left it, the same.
Seems like this year's down somewhat significantly. In the past, like the 13 and the 12 numbers were 30 and 34.
Yeah, 34 for 13, is that what it was, 30?
Yeah.
34. So 39, you could certainly look at that. I mean, you could look at it and knock it down to 38. I wouldn't go much lower than that just for a comfort level. That's all. Fuel oil, we dropped that down from $17,000 to $14,000. Looking at FY13, we expended $11,500. So I think that's a level, that's a number that I'm comfortable with. Not knowing the price of fuel, but certainly giving ourselves enough wiggle room to if fuel does go up, as long as it doesn't go up double, we'll be okay. So I did reduce that.
Mhm.
Yeah. The maintenance of the building, I went to $13,000. And this is, to me, it's money well spent, because again, you have I always say this, a $6.5 million building, that when you walk through, and the public walks through it, it's like, it's almost 6 years old now, or 5 years old, 6 years old. It's like it was the first day. We really take a lot of pride in the fact that it was a big investment that we appreciated from the townspeople. We want to keep that up. So if you can think of a building with, runs 24 hours a day, and maintenance is about $13,000, we're doing okay. We're doing all right. So I think that's a reasonable. Purchase services, I always get questioned on this one. This is a lot of the cleaning contract, the computer maintenance contract, the mechanical contractor, ATC inspection, they have to get the HVAC inspected. And you look at that, just to get it inspected, contractually, it costs us $5,000 to get, all the belts checked, everything checked. So it can be costly. For accreditation, we get our generator, inspected, and then boiler. We've had issues with the boilers at the station. Matter of fact, they were here yesterday trying to fix a pump. So that gets rather expensive. And then things like LexisNexis, which is a database for criminal law, for investigatory purposes. That's included in all this too. So I looked at that number and I kept it the same. I looked at what we spent, even though we spent $61,000. I also looked at the fact that the previous town manager has a new contractor for saving money. I know the assistant town manager was instrumental in getting us a new contract, and it was a reduced rate, so we saved a little money. So hence the reason, though, even though other things went up, we kept that number. We kept that number the same. Kudos to them. Postage. I reduced postage by a couple hundred. As we move towards Carfax, and as we move towards more computerized, cost of postage goes down, because we just don't use postage as much. We're one of the few departments that does Carfaxes, so you can get your report online by another party, and it actually makes the town money. So people pay an extra $4 to go online and get an accident report that was done by the offices, and the town gets money back. So it's kind of a nice thing. And then we don't have to pay postage. And a lot of that money comes back anyways, because say, for instance, an attorney wants a report for a client. we charge $5. So we'll charge the $5, we'll mail the stuff out to them. The town gets that money back into the general fund. So, well, again, all that money goes back into the general fund of the town. Telephone, I increased the telephone by $1,680. And that has to do with, we're no longer, I was talking to the technology department of the town, and there's an internet service that the town's no longer going to, that his office was, even though it was for the police department, it was a service of $140 a month that he was paying for the police department, which didn't make sense. So he discontinued that. So he's, I imagine, taking that from his budget, and we're putting that into our budget. So that's the increase of $1,680 per year, or $140 a month. If for some reason we do increase the amount of officers in the department, and we got a detective, I would certainly increase that again, for phone for the detective. I don't know that that's an issue right now, but just so you know, and this is the amount without the detective. But if we were to pick up additional staff and they were assigned to the detective division, I would anticipate asking for more, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The radio, I increased that by a couple $1,000s. I'm looking at increasing our, getting radio mics and increasing that. Some of them, we have wireless now. They're about $80 a piece for a microphone, believe it or not, from a portable radio that goes portable radio to the shoulder. What we have now is I want to move towards wireless from there, wireless contraptions that go basically to your ear. You'll see some of the offices have them, some of them don't. The ones that don't have them, it's because their microphone isn't set up with a little, as it is a little tab that they plug into, because they're antiquated, so they don't have that technology. That's a great thing when they're out in the woods. I think I first discovered it at Gillette Stadium, believe it or not. And I saw these officers with these things in their ears, and I realized that I couldn't hear what was going on because of the noise. And conversely, when you're out in the woods looking for somebody that may be looking for you, they can hear you. So you're walking up, somebody's talking on the radio. This way it doesn't, it goes right into your ear. So that's sort of the technology, the way I'm trying to head this to. As we talk about radios, I'll go off the grid here for a second. Capital plan, that's going to be an issue that capital plan further on down the line, that radios repeaters are going to be something that I'm going to be looking at, because we went from wideband to narrowband. And in a nutshell, I'm getting pricing on what it would cost because we've lost coverage. There's a lot of areas in town, because the state sort of mandated narrowband, that you don't get the coverage in certain areas of town. And I got to figure out where to put another repeater or amplifier. I got to figure out a town, especially up in the Green Street type area. I got to figure out where we can put something that the town owns or the town can lease. So that'll be something in the future for capital plan down the line. That's probably my only real capital plan, other than cruises, if they're not funded in the budget. Teletype and computer, pretty much stayed the same, status quo on teletype and computer. We seem to be doing okay there. I'm looking at what we've spent so far in computers, and I thought it was, almost fell out of my chair. Spent $27,000 so far out of a $33,000 budget for computers. We're looking to, we are in the process of upgrading our service, doing all the licensing, all that stuff. So the computers, only the cycle really is about 5 years. The technology goes beyond, and then we run out of space too. That's the other problem, is we take in so much data that it's just amazing. So it's a never-ending struggle with computers. We have somebody in there that really helps us with the computers. Office supplies. Hope I'm not getting too boring here. We left status quo. I think we spent $9,000 last year. We're asking for $8,000. Office supplies is always an area that that you can look at conservatively and cut back on. You can really you go without if you don't have it. So that's what we kind of did with that. Auxiliary police line item. This line item, again, we kept the same. As accreditation goes, and as we move towards, well, we're accredited, as we hire auxiliary police officers, we have to give them the same amount of training that we do full-time officers. It's part of accreditation standard. And I've always said this, there may be a point, and this, I don't think we're there yet, but there may be a point when we look at auxiliary police as not cost effective. I don't think we're there yet. For instance, when we hire an auxiliary police officer, not only do we send them to the academy and they have to go to this stuff, but they also have psychologicals. Psychological exam is a lot of money. And we look at these candidates, and at some point you say, hey, you share the cost, but it gets to a point where it's $5,000 for somebody who wants to become an auxiliary police officer. And you're not going to get them if you don't reach out to them and help them.
How many auxiliary officers are there?
We have 20 officers.
When are they? When do they work? When are they on?
They are on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They typically work the 6 to 2 shift. And they also fill in on details. You'll see most of the officers that you see out there, there's a few that work details, but for the most part, it's the auxiliary officers. And the good part about having auxiliary officers work details in town is you get a 10% surcharge back. So the town, if we have somebody from the outside work, if we were to get rid of them all, we have people from the outside work, the other towns get that, we don't get that. But when they're one of our officers and we do the billing, we get that money. So it pays a little money back, 10% administrative fee, which is no heavy lifting. I mean, the records clerk is doing that. It's part of her normal duties, so it's a good plus thing. Custodial supplies, again, I left that status quo at $3,000. I didn't see a need to go up in that. I think we spent $2,800 last year. I think that's reasonable, and certainly I don't anticipate a big jump unless $200 is we should be able to cover any increases in any costs of disinfectants or whatnot. Certainly should be the same. Gas and oil. I used what we did last year and the year before. The town manager, it's a WAG. Certainly an increase of $3,791, which is 6%. We seem to have used that in the last couple of years. That seems to work. There is, certainly some wiggle room on it, but I don't know. We just don't know the cost of. I wouldn't want to come back here when I know you guys are tight for reserve fund transfers. I wouldn't want to cut that down too much more because you'd be tight. But we used a figure of 6%. I don't know if there's any. If you have any thought on that?
Is this for the vehicles?
This is for the vehicles. Yes, it's for the vehicles. It's for gas. It's gasoline. It's what it is. One of the things that we did years ago is we went from, at one point they were doing high-test gasoline. We did away with that, which is, but there's pluses and minuses of that, as far as vehicle maintenance and all that, but performance, but I think it saved the town quite a bit of money. But there's also, a negative side to it too, a little bit. So vehicle supplies, so again, we kept it the same. I think we were on target for there. We spent $22,000 last year. We have 2 newer vehicles coming online, so I don't anticipate an increase, I hope, in any type of major vehicle issues or repairs. This is, oil pumps, timing chains, and, oil and whatever it might be, oil filters and all that stuff, brake pads, all that kind of stuff. And I gotta say, the vehicle maintenance department does an unbelievable job in town. We are the envy of most. You know, most communities want to do what we're doing here, what the vehicle maintenance is doing. They really do. I hear that all the time. If we get in a cruiser, gets bumped, vehicle maintenance, we send it over and it gets repaired. Well, it may not go, it might be bumping into something that's, you know, a rock or something that happens, a tree. The vehicles get repaired, doesn't drive our insurance up. They do it in-house, which is nice, because it doesn't, otherwise you're going through insurance, which sometimes we have to, but a lot of times we don't. Travel expense is kept the same. We've kept the same for many years. I don't anticipate that going up. That's a lot of it has to do with officers when they go to training. Contractually, they receive, you know, mail or something. It's $8 or something for mail, or whatever it might be contractually. Dues and membership, we've kept the same. That is dues in, you know, might be the IACP, East Metro Elect, and the Metropolitan Law Enforcement Council went up in their dues. Greater Boston Police Council, different organizations that we belong to. Hanson Rod and Gun Club, when we shoot. We have one membership. I have a membership there, but I don't actually ever go there. The officers do. They have a key, and they go. They don't require us to all have a membership, which is a credit to them. They require just me to have a membership. If they need, the officers need to go out, we have to do remedial training or something, we can send them over to Hanson Rod and Gun Club. And they're very, very good about that. Unclassified is where it's all hidden. Thank you. Exactly. That's just basically everything that, it's basically anything that isn't covered. A lot of it has to do with, I think off the top of my head, computer, copy machine contracts or whatnot, which I'd love to look at some point. Some of the contracts we have for the copy machines for maintenance. I know the previous town manager locked us in some things that I think maybe we can do a little better. Yeah. So that's those. And in the capital expense, I'm looking for 2 cruises to replace, cruises with excess of $100,000. This is always the kind of the discussion as to whether or not we should put that on capital plan.
In every town.
In every town. In my humble opinion, I'll give you for what it's worth, I think that we know we're going to replace 2 cruises a year. We know that's a fixed cost. And I'm talking about marked cruisers. I'm not talking about an administrative cruiser. I'm not talking about a cruiser for myself. So I think that's a capital plan item. It's my humble opinion. But I think cruises, as far as working cruises, we know we're going to do them. You can put it off on capital plan, but you're just putting it off what you know you're going to do. I don't know. It's all in how you look at it. I humbly request that you put them in here. But
I think just from what I've noticed in the short time I've been here, the issue is that there hasn't been operating funds, so you've been funding it from whatever free cash is available, which pushes it into the realm of capital, not necessarily because you want to, but because you have
Right.
to. So,
right.
so that kind of trumps the philosophical question, because it's a matter of when is there money available for that. But it's a very valid point, though. I mean, you know that the kind of mileage you put on, you know what you're going to need every year, but how can you shift those costs over time?
Well, that's why we brought you here. You're going to solve all these great dilemmas.
Point down.
But I think that wraps it up as far as I'll answer anything and everything, please.
Chief, are there grants? And you didn't talk about that, I'm sure that, are you going after them for like the radios?
Yes.
The repeaters?
Not for the radios.
Okay.
One of the things that we go after grants for is 911. We've been diligent in receiving money from 911, training money for 911, staffing money for 911. Governor's Highway Safety Bureau right now gives out grants. We're on them all the time, whether it be for, we just did one for liquor establishments. We've got a couple of minors procuring alcohol, different liquor stores, seatbelt when we're out there doing a seatbelt, click at a ticket. That's all grant funding that we go out for, so any grants that are available, we're on top of them. But it isn't like it used to be. It would be wonderful if we could get the, cops grant again, and put some officers out on the road that way, but I just don't see that coming down the horizon. We've looked at, was hopeful that, and we just actually applied for it, but we didn't get it, a grant for an officer in the schools. And we just weren't able to get them. So grants were all over them. We're always looking for it.
Is it primarily labor-type grants that are paying for officers, or is there equipment?
There's primarily labor.
Okay,
Labor, yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone?
May I bring up a quick issue, only because we had a discussion with the fire chief last night, a little bit about the dispatch situation. Without
Just going to go there.
opening up a can of worms, I think if, I guess to preface it a little bit, as you know, the fire chief is spending approximately $100,000. We talked about, the $10,000 increase perhaps next year for the services over in Holbrook. And the question that came up was the cost effectiveness of doing it of providing the services through the police station facility. And the presumption that it's gonna cost at least a couple $100,000 more to do that. So, Dave, I don't know if you feel, right, I didn't ask you to come in and talk about
Okay.
that, but if you can at least give us a quick primer on that?
Sure. As we built that police station back almost 6 years ago, it was and one of the things that we said, we got out there and said, I can remember people out there, members of the Board of Selectmen at the time, building committee, saying, this was gonna save the town money in the long run because we're gonna do centralized dispatch. And the station is set up for that. And I still believe it would save the town money, and I'll tell you a couple of thoughts. One is, if you're talking $110,000, that's certainly, that we're kind of farming out to somebody else. I think there's money there. I also think that we get about $43,000 in 911 grant that we get from the state, so there's another $43,000.
But you get that now.
We get that now.
It's not additional funds.
Exactly, but we get that now. All training of 911 is paid for so if you train an officer in 911, that's paid for by grant. And then you also got the thought of getting officers off the desk, which is what we were always talking about. You're taking an officer, or a police officer, that we're training, that we're paying, and we're sticking them on a desk. I think a reasonable and a better way of getting officers, we talk about getting more officers on the road. One way to do it would be to get them off the desk, out into the community, out to the road. Now, they still might have to come back, we do boards, we have a prisoner, and I get that. But I think it would save the town a lot of money. I think you're gonna be paying paying less. I don't think you're gonna be paying the same rate as you pay a police officer, at least I hope you're not. And I think there's money to be saved there. And careful what I wish for. I realize it's a bigger undertaking, and there's gonna be a lot of growing pains if we do police fire dispatch. They have the fire department has a very distinct way of dispatching, and the police department has a very distinct way. But I also think it's a much more effective way. What I don't understand is if you were to call 911 right now, anyone here from a cell phone, and you would have an emergency, which isn't unusual, right? I mean, we all have cell phones. We're so away from our own home phones. But if you were to call for a cell phone, you would say 911, they would pick up the phone. State police would answer, and it would be state police in Boston. And then you would say, 911, what's your emergency? You'd say, I'm having a heart attack, I'm having a medical issue. Hold on, let me transfer you. They would then transfer you to the Abington Police Department. We'd pick up the phone and say, 911, what is your emergency? You would say, I'm still having that medical issue, I'm still having that heart attack. You'd say, okay, hold on. Let me transfer you to Holbrook Fire Department. Holbrook Fire Department would pick up the phone and say, 911, what's your emergency? Now, can you imagine, and there's a lot of difficulties in that. Think about if you're having an emergency, the stress that you're under, the tunnel vision, that if you have something going on. Think about the fact that you're already under a tremendous amount of stress, and you're being transferred People hang up the phone, they walk away, they don't know what to do, because their kid or whatever it is having an emergency, and we're transferring. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't it make much more sense to say, Abington Police Department, when you get that phone call, maybe it's the cell phone, it's going directly to the Abington Police Department. Abington Police Department, right next to that dispatcher for the police department is a dispatcher for the fire department, so there is no transfer, which they're hearing. We're from here to here, so you might be on that call saying, okay, where's that? Oh, it's at, Blueberry Lane, okay. And the fire department at the same time is going, they're looking, it's being typed in, they're looking, and they're dispatching their rescue directly there, or they're getting on the air directly. One of the prime examples of that, and I think the town manager was witness to it, was kind of a little idea was we had a horrendous pedestrian accident, and we were so tied up that the officers thought and went on the air, went right to the Abington Fire Department, and dispatched right over to the fire department. Well, they were there within 2 minutes because of that, which is just phenomenal. And I really, really believe did this person a lot of good to have the fire department there, the professional fire department there within 2 minutes. I don't know that this system right now, well, I do know that it isn't the best system. I haven't liked it from day one. I don't like it now. And I don't like it for the fact that I don't think we're giving the public the service that they expect and deserve. And it's as simple as that. So when I'm pretty passionate, and Rick has seen that, about dispatch, and it's not because of any one issue except for one. It's a matter of we're there to help the public, and we're there to give them the best, in my humble opinion, the best service they can. And I don't know that the system is the way it's set up.
And I think, we all appreciate the comments of the fire chief last night too, in terms of, the dilemma that he faced in decision-making that went along with the Holbrook decision. But I think that, speaking to both chiefs, the common goal is this, to determine if there is a financially feasible way to do exactly what the chief is suggesting. And the presumption has been that has not, that would increase costs dramatically. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's probably a project during this coming year that we'll all be working on to see if there's something we can do to make that cost effective. And it does, as the chief pointed out, certainly plays into his goal of getting more police officers on the road too, but how much more in general can the town spend on any service right now, regardless of what it is? But I didn't want you to go home tonight not having had a chance to discuss.
I have a little question regarding that, though. So, all right, let's say we were able to do something like this. You would be bringing on emergency medical dispatchers?
Correct.
And you're already set up. I mean, we went through a lot of this last year and
Yes.
all of that, which I think we all remember.
Mhm.
And so by having that EMD in-house, it would free up a officer to then go back out on the road.
Correct.
Okay. I think that was just that clarification piece, and then,
You're replacing civilian police officers with civilian dispatchers, and, the question is for $100,000 that you're now, plus that the town is paying to participate in the regional program, how much does that buy you in terms of dispatch services? That wouldn't have to be, accommodated by additional funds to do what we're hoping to achieve. And I think most, and I do not want to speak for the fire chief, but I think in our discussions in the office, I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with that if you can dispatch locally and you can do everything you're doing, you can have a backup capacity. You can achieve all those things locally, you want to, but as long as you can make it cost effective. So that's the challenge, to take another look at that and see if there's a little cost.
Mhm.
Excellent.
great.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you. Appreciate it. Again, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
you doing?
Good, how are you? How's everything in network administration?
Not too bad.
Great.
Quiet. Everything's behaving.
That's good.
Glad to hear it.
Today, yeah. I mean, we had a phone outage today, but that was,
On the carrier side.
yeah,
Great.
major outage.
Want to take us through your budget? All right.
All right. So, salary is pretty self-explanatory. Next one on my budget, you notice, is a 84% drop. It's the food and access on the first page.
Yep,
You get that?
I got it.
Yeah, last year was 30,000, this year it's 5. That's because of the KVS upgrade. The,
Okay.
what is it? Like, not payroll, but bill paying and all that. That was the second payment, installment payment for
Okay.
the install, so that's why that dropped. For my, next group is my support, my phone bills. I cut $6,600 out of it because I'm paying almost $7,000 in the school's phone numbers, so they should be paying their own, out of their own budget, so that was the big drop on that one. But everything's pretty much the same in the phone side. Let's see. My licenses and support on page 2, that's all these, you get the breakdown? Don't say-
Yes.
I got a different view.
Oh,
Doesn't have that many lines. It's got a few of them. Starts with Vision CAMA software and ends with network support.
I had to maybe just pick this one up today.
Oh, okay.
It actually, Chad, actually starts on the page.
Actually,
That's why it's not as long.
this is all,
That's why it started.
this is all the licensing and support contracts I pay for right now, if you want to break that out.
Summary.
Well, I got last year's cost, this year's cost, the difference and all that stuff.
Great,
But,
okay.
yeah, like one of the support costs, Cisco SmartNet, 2 years ago, you were paying $12,000, and that was totally messed up. Last year I had it down to $5,900, and found out I was paying for the support for the school's equipment, so I cut that out again, so I dropped another $3,000.
So they probably really don't like you over there right now.
Well,
Yeah, even the police chief mentioned it.
but, like, they host my, I was doing all my offsite backups to the school. 3 weeks ago, that device died, so I had to buy a new one, put it at the firehouse, so the school has their own stuff. So. But a lot of the support contract prices have gone up this year, like KBS, that jumped $1,500, which doesn't show on here.
Is that phone support? Is that on-site support?
That's phone support.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's $32,000 a year, almost 33, so it's quite expensive. A big cut is the fire department's IMC support. We moved all that over to Holbrook, so our pricing almost got cut in half, so.
Great.
Let's see, office supplies, basic. So.
Server.
Server.
Yeah.
Computer replacements. So, all my servers, right now my servers are anywhere from 7 to 10 years old. 2000, server 2003. As of April, no more support from Microsoft. XP, no more support from Microsoft, so I've been slowly trying to get desktops. I put it for $12,000 last year, and it was cut down to like 33, so can't really buy a server on that, so I've been trying to update desktops and stuff, so. But all my servers are end of life, end of support. I can't get support from Dell, then Microsoft as of April, so I'm planning on doing a server upgrade. So I have about 8 servers. I'm going to incorporate them all into 2. Put a pair of them in, cluster them, so, and then put all the data to a disk array. So virtualize them, virtual no downtime.
Is this making sense for you?
I was gonna say, I'm nodding.
Okay.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, automatic failover, if one goes down, the other one fails over to the other, so the
Okay.
email would never go down.
So it's just like a redundant
Yeah.
system?
Yeah.
As long as they don't both
Huh?
go. As long as they don't both go.
Yes, well, that's rare,
It is.
unless you have a power failure, because we don't have a generator,
Yeah.
which is another.
Which is another whole story.
Yeah.
So the request, just because it's under at the T in draft, is for 20?
Yes,
Okay.
the seven and, yeah, sorry.
We can see it, it's just kind of right over the number.
Yeah.
You know, here I am stamping every single time.
All by
A little more
hand.
computer.
You have very good aim. Very consistent with those stamps.
So the miscellaneous computer supplies is keyboards, mice, monitors, so it's pretty low, so. Travel expense, I put that in this year, I never had it in there before, that's for when I go to my school. And I never put in any travel reimbursement for when I drive around town, so I figured I should put in something, so. And next is my training, that's my annual training is $4,000. Next line is my data center. I want to finish my data center, putting a computer room upstairs, and walls are up, floors on.
The capital piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still, I can't put the windows in it yet until I get the HVAC air conditioning system in.
Okay.
And then I have to put a fire suppression system in, which is gas instead of water. So, and then that will be done. So,
I'm going to ask the normal capital.
Yes.
Let me just leave it at that. So are we doing capital for capital, or is there a reason capital is in the budget, or?
Well, capital, we should be on the capital plan, and in fact, Dory spent a lot of time in the last several months trying to put together a capital plan document for two reasons. Number one, because it's the right thing to do, and number two, because it was helpful in treasurer collector interacting with Moody's for bond rating discussion, evaluation, and preparation of what might be a school project. So, but we do have to have an annual process. It's bureaucratic as heck, but you have to do it. So that groundwork has been laid, but we do have. I don't know. I know this is something that you and Dory talked about in terms of the capital plan, but unfortunately, we don't have any capacity within the operating budget right now to fund capital items. I would hope that, and I know it's easier said than done, but as any non-exempt debt that we have drops off, that we can use those, that what is now debt money to turn that into new debt within the levy limit for capital. But that remains to be seen. And you know as well as anybody the difficulty in funding the operating budget. So to the extent that you can use falling debt to do that, it's a struggle. But that would be hopefully some way to start building in some capital capacity within the operating fund, so we don't have to rely on free cash every year and rely on debt exclusions for everything. But we're not there yet, obviously. So this is something that would presumably wait until after, special town meeting after free cash is certified in the fall.
Okay. So now I have two questions. So the items that are listed here, these are one-time expenditures. And are you proposing to put that into this or hold off until we address capital items? Separate, I know you kind of just went into that a little bit,
I
but,
would suggest this would be held off, and this would be part of the capital plan that would be funded in the fall, once we have our free cash certification.
okay. And timeline-wise, is that something that's going to be able to work with the
Yeah,
project that you
it's
have
not
at hand?
critical. It's not critical, so it can wait, so
Okay.
I just want the windows.
Can Can I, if you don't mind,
Physical
can I
windows
ask
or computer
Yeah,
windows?
get computer.
Wayne to briefly discuss the departments that you service from a technology standpoint?
Yeah, I take care of the highway department, the maintenance department, the sewer department, council of aging, the library,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, so, and the town hall, so.
Thus the travel expense.
Fire and police?
Oh, sorry, I don't take care of police, but I do take care of the fire department too. They have their own, they have 2 servers over there and their own little closet, but that's not the best either, so. It's a stand-up air conditioner with a regular closet, so.
And you don't do the school?
No. Aaron does ours.
So it, you know, his service is a stretch fairly thin. Good bang for the buck, but I know that sometimes you think of, you know, IT as basically dealing with the town's financial management system and just, you know, KVS system, but it's really a much more intricate job than, and I know from my own history that, you know, in order to get those services, you spend a lot of contract money to get those same types of services, and a lot of times it's very much lacking what you can get on a contract basis for what Wayne's able to do for the town, so.
Yeah, absolutely, and I know we had actually even reviewed that last year with everything, because there was, sometimes people think, you know, oh, it's just town hall, and, or something like that, and no, it's the entire town, and most of the departments.
Yeah, even one office in town hall can keep you very busy. I know. I'm a frequent flyer.
A lot of
myself.
departments kind of feeling that pain with the contractor now because
Yeah.
he can basically generate his own problems and they wouldn't know. And then they have to call him in and it's $125 every time they call him, so.
Right, that was going on prior at the fire station, so
Yeah, oh, yeah.
several years ago.
Oh, yeah, that was a
That was a
nightmare.
huge savings.
So it's technology, it's phones, it's alarms, it's basically a de facto building manager too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
I don't have a custodial person.
I installed
It's,
12 cameras over the council of aging and the whole camera system, and we have cameras here now too, so.
Right.
Which we thank you for.
You fix the bench, you fix the
Right.
cabinet, you fix everything.
Everything.
He does.
Fix that, the sign, the lovely
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
You need anything fixed?
Go ahead, Rick.
Wayne, were you gonna tie into the existing air conditioner, or are you gonna have a separate one?
I no, have its own separate. It's a little, it's a small little unit. It's a little split system. They would have its own little unit up in the attic.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of the Sanyo units, just the wall ones.
Because with the existing unit, that doesn't regulate. The
Right. computers
put out a lot of heat, so you have to have a lot colder in there than everywhere else, and then people complain it's cold in the building.
If I could also add, in complete full disclosure here, Wayne is, his position is in the supervisory group. And in the transition from my predecessor to me, there was some commitments made that just have gotten, you know, I don't want to say gotten lost, but been delayed because of the, and those are going to have to be dealt with at some point, if not by the end of this fiscal year, next fiscal year, which will have an impact on the budget. So I obviously don't want to, there are, you know, obviously there's a bargaining process that goes on with the union. But I just want people to understand that that's something that you will be seeing at some point, so you don't. And Wayne's kind of on the outside looking into all this, so that's why it's not, he didn't put it in his budget, because it probably wouldn't be appropriate, but I just, full disclosure, want to let you know that will have to be addressed by the town in the very near future.
So you'll probably present something like that in, you know, in your presentation to us with any adjustments.
If those adjustments are ready based upon the bargaining situation, but that eventually will be how it's handled. Yeah, either during this budget process presentation or at some subsequent point through the Board of Selectmen, because ultimately they have to approve all contracts. But it's something that's, you know, when I say imminent, this is government, so imminent could be between now and 2058. But looking into next fiscal year, yes, there will be some adjustments necessary sooner rather than later. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see, next.
Yeah.
Great. Questions?
Nope, all set.
Some of the upcoming issues that are gonna be happening is, with like Windows XP no longer supported. The assessor's office has a program Vision that they use to do all their assessing. The version we have now will only work on XP. So if their
course.
computers die, I can't give them Windows 7 because it won't work with their version, and they're waiting to upgrade to the next version, which is a lot of money. And then, so everything kind of falls in place with everything else. Our phone system is end of life, end of support. They're on version 9. Once they go to version 10, these phones don't work anymore. So now you have to upgrade all your phones too, so.
Timing is everything.
Yes. So there's a lot of things that they're forcing people to upgrade.
Right.
Love technology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Don't forget to have your laptop too.
Yeah,
Oh, the department laptop.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's in my office, so anytime you need it, let me know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
So, move along on the agenda. We already covered Veterans Emergency Reserve Fund transfer request. I'm going to ask it.
At some point, if we actually want to schedule these two items, I think when we can do that, especially when the town count is back
From Italy.
vacation or whatever, we could maybe address those.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks.
Great.
Liaison reports. Review of minutes. No minutes. You're not that quick. Come on.
Get the hairy eyeball
Correspondence.
from
I haven't
Deb.
learned where the mailbox is yet. So we have somewhere. I have the email with the list for next week. So our next meeting will be February 19th, according to this. So next week we're doing Wednesday, Thursday.
I can't make it Tuesday.
Just so you know, last night I did speak to Chad briefly about Saturday sessions. A lot of people use, the Super Saturday, you get in there early and keep people fed and hydrated, and leave when it's dark, and you pretty much, so you're not out 2 or 3 nights a week for a month. But I know there's some scheduling issues with that. But if that's something you want to talk about, trying to put together at some point, we'd be happy to work with you to do that, so.
I think there would probably be, I know there's interest for me in it.
There is?
Not for this year.
Oh, okay, but fair enough. But I think it's something that,
This year's booked.
yeah, and then when you're done, you get out of jail.
There's no jail.
Yeah.
But it's
I think it makes, a lot of sense. We'd seen it my first year with the schools.
yeah,
Mm.
okay, so.
There was donuts.
similar.
Right.
Just want to let you know they brought donuts.
We can do both. We can do
I don't know if there's much better than donuts.
We can do donuts, though. Whatever you like, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Wow. So next week, on the 19th, we'll be meeting with Highway, Park and Rec, and Water. And then on the 20th, with Sewer, Town Clerk, and Building Inspector. And Deb, I will get you the agenda. Does it go to you? All right, I'll get you that tomorrow.
And
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just to let you know, Mr. Chairman, I know the water department had a scheduling conflict.
Okay.
So we're probably gonna swap him out with another department. I'll firm that up tomorrow.
Okay.
Would you
I
like
can't
us
make it Thursday.
to slot times for these, realizing they're gonna be a little bit fluid, just,
I don't even know how we would do that.
Does it matter to the finance committee if we try to, do our best to try to slot some time, so, for instance, Wayne doesn't have to wait so they know, I'll come at 8 instead of 7.
I think in the past couple of years, we've done like either half-hour increments or something to at least have a little bit of a timeline.
Okay.
Do you want to prepare the departments that are coming in for a half hour then?
Yeah, we can rework the schedule tomorrow.
Okay.
With the
So-
Wednesday, Thursday.
So I'll wait to get the agenda to you until I know the departments. Okay. Great. Anything else? Anyone?
I can't make a motion, so.
And anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't be in it.
Cool. We'll bring the meeting to you.
What?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll be there anyways. Just stay late.
Yeah.
I should decide Thursday or not.
Huh?
I should decide on Wednesday.